There are stories that have no ending. Crimes where the evidence leads to a dead end. Mysteries where the truth is buried under decades of silence. These are the cases that defy explanation, the files that were never closed. Welcome to Unsolved Case Files, the series where we reopen the coldest cases and journey into the heart of the world's most perplexing mysteries. For our first case, we travel back to 1960s California to hunt a ghost who terrorized a city, played games with the police, and then vanished. We begin with the puzzle of the Zodiac Killer. So how could a killer taunt the entire world with cryptic letters and never be identified? What allowed him to look police officers in the eye and simply walk away? And is it possible that the most infamous serial killer in American history was never even on the suspect list? Stay with us as we seek the answers. The story begins not with a bang, but with a whisper of violence that rippled through the quiet communities of Northern California. December 20th, 1968. On a secluded lover's lane in Benicia, two high school students, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, were on their first date. They were shot and killed. The attack was brutal, swift, and seemingly motiveless. The police were baffled. It was a tragedy, but for months it was just that. An isolated, unsolved crime. Then, 7 months later, on July the 4th, 1969, another couple, Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau, were sitting in a parked car just a few miles away. A car pulled up behind them, its headlights blinding. A man approached with a flashlight and a gun. He fired 5 times. Darlene was killed instantly. Michael miraculously survived. Before he lost consciousness, he gave police a description, a short, heavy-set white male. But there was something else. The attacker didn't just shoot and run. He walked away calmly, methodically. Less than an hour after the attack, the Vallejo Police Department received a phone call. The voice on the other end was monotone, male, and chillingly calm. He spoke without emotion. "I wish to report a double murder," he said. "I also killed those kids last year." He was confessing. And he was just getting started. On August the 1st, 1969, the game truly began. 3 envelopes arrived at 3 different newspapers. Inside each was a letter. The author took credit for the attacks and provided details only the killer could know. But there was more. Each letter contained 1/3 of a complex cryptogram, a 408-symbol cipher. And with it, a demand. "Publish my cipher," he wrote, "or I will go on a kill rampage." He signed the letter with a symbol, a cross circle, the mark of the Zodiac. The newspapers faced an impossible choice. They published the cipher. The FBI's best cryptographers, military intelligence, and amateur codebreakers all stared at the strange symbols. Just 1 week later, a high school teacher, Donald Harden, and his wife, Betty, cracked it. The message was terrifying. It was filled with misspellings, a glimpse into a disturbed mind. It read, "I like killing people because it is so much fun. Man is the most dangerous animal of all." The message also claimed he was collecting slaves for the afterlife. The Zodiac wasn't just a killer. He was a performer. His performance was about to become even more theatrical. September 27th, 1969. Another couple, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard, were picnicking at Lake Berryessa. They saw a man approaching. He was wearing a bizarre medieval-style executioner's hood, and on his chest, the cross-circle symbol. He held a gun. He told them he was an escaped convict. He tied them up. But then he pulled out a long knife. He stabbed Brian 6 times. He stabbed Cecilia 10 times. After the attack, he walked to their car and drew his symbol on the door. Then he drove to a payphone and called the police again. "I want to report a murder," he said, his voice still eerily calm. "I'm the one that did it." Cecilia Shepard died 2 days later. Brian Hartnell, against all odds, survived. Just 2 weeks later, the Zodiac brought his terror to the heart of San Francisco. October 11th, 1969. A cab driver named Paul Stein was shot and killed. The killer then took a piece of his blood-soaked shirt. Police officers were dispatched. In a now infamous mistake, they passed a heavy-set white man walking away from the scene. They believed he was a witness and let him go. This answers our second question. He walked free because of a critical error in communication. The dispatcher had mistakenly described the suspect as a black male. The Zodiac had looked law enforcement in the eye and walked away. Days later, a letter arrived at the San Francisco Chronicle. It contained a piece of Paul Stein's bloody shirt. It was proof. He mocked the police for their incompetence. He was untouchable, and he knew it. This began the Zodiac's long and frustrating correspondence. He sent more letters, more ciphers. One, the infamous 340-character cipher, would remain unsolved for 51 years. He threatened to blow up a school bus. The investigation was led by men like Inspector Dave Toschi, who would dedicate years of his life to the case. The primary suspect was Arthur Lee Allen, a former teacher with a troubled past. But the evidence was all circumstantial. His fingerprints didn't match. His handwriting was ruled out. And here's the strangest part. Despite all the letters, all the killings, and all the taunts, not a single piece of solid physical evidence ever linked any suspect to the crimes. That's what makes the Zodiac feel less like a man and more like a ghost. Years turned into decades. The letters stopped. The Zodiac Killer disappeared. But the case never went cold. It became a global obsession. In 2020, a team of private codebreakers finally solved the 340 cipher. The message was just as chilling as the first. "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner." So, how did he remain a mystery? Through a combination of luck, police error, and a cunning ability to leave no physical evidence behind. He hid in plain sight, using words as his only real signature. He achieved exactly what he wanted, immortal infamy. The man was never found. The case was never closed. If this mystery captured your mind, help us keep the investigation alive. Share this video with someone who loves a puzzle. Like the video if you have your own theory. And most importantly, subscribe to the Unscripted Show and click the notification bell so you don't miss the next episode of Unsolved Case Files.